Clothes horse death. On February 1, 2011, 38-year-old Brian DePledge was at home in his semi-detached house in Bradford, West Yorkshire, doing one of the most ordinary things imaginable, hanging wet laundry on an indoor folding clothes error in his living room. DePledge was a father of two, a quietly popular man described by his daughter Shawnee as a lovely, easygoing dad. That evening, investigators later concluded, he likely caught his foot on a small stool sitting on the floor near the error. He stumbled backwards, and his upper body fell into the loaded frame. The error buckled under his weight, and his head and torso slipped between the plastic-coated metal bars, while the heavy, wet clothes draped across it pulled the structure down across his neck and chest. In his attempt to push himself free, he threaded an arm through the bars and forced the frame downward, which only tightened the structure around him. West Yorkshire Police Detective Inspector Mark Long described the effect as similar to a cat's cradle, the bars closing like a concertina around his neck and chest and preventing him from drawing a full breath. Pathologist Dr. Philip Batman testified at the inquest that the compression caused asphyxiation consistent with hanging, with congested lungs and fluid buildup, confirming he had been slowly suffocated. A visitor later found DePledge on the living room floor, still entangled in the error, and called emergency services, but paramedics could only confirm death at the scene. At the inquest, Senior Coroner Professor Paul Marks recorded a verdict of accidental death, describing it as an untimely death caused by the most bizarre set of circumstances, probably rarer than being struck by lightning or a meteorite. Flying hydrant death. On a Thursday evening in June 2007, 24-year-old Humberto Hernandez and his wife were walking along the sidewalk on International Boulevard in Oakland, California's Fruitvale district, heading out for dinner. Hernandez was carrying a bouquet of flowers and a bag of cherries. It was a warm evening, the kind of errand any couple might run. The two walked a short distance apart on the same sidewalk. At nearly the same moment, a Ford Escape SUV traveling on the road suffered a sudden tire blowout. The driver, a 45-year-old woman from Danville, lost control of the vehicle as it veered toward the curb. The SUV struck a roadside fire hydrant at speed. The hydrant weighed roughly 200 pounds, and the combined force of the impact and the pressure of the mains water supply beneath it ripped it clean out of the ground. Responding officers, including motorcycle officer Eddie Bermudez, later told reporters that the hydrant was launched like a bullet, skimming the pavement before arcing upward and traveling directly toward Hernandez, who was standing only about 10 feet from the point of impact. The hydrant struck him in the back of the head with catastrophic force, killing him and continuing on to smash through a nearby fence. His wife, just steps behind him, escaped physical injury but witnessed the entire event. Paramedics responded immediately, but Humberto Hernandez was pronounced dead at the scene at 6:08 p.m. Officer Bermudez told reporters that if Hernandez had been 1 foot one way or the other, he would not have been hit. Gym treadmill death. On July 21, 2023, 36-year-old Delry Rosario arrived at the LA Fitness on 104th Avenue Southeast in Kent, Washington, the same way she had countless times before. She and her sister Marissa Woods worked out together there almost every day, stepping onto adjacent treadmills as part of their regular afternoon routine. Rosario was a mother of 4, and the gym sessions were carved out of the ordinary rhythm of a working parent's week. That afternoon, while running, she reached toward the treadmill's console, and Marissa later described seeing her sister try to slow the machine down. Rosario missed a step. The stumble sent her forward, and she struck her head against the front console, or frame of the treadmill, with enough force to knock her unconscious. The belt then threw her off the back of the machine and onto the floor. Marissa screamed for help. Staff and fellow gym members rushed over, with some beginning CPR, while others called 911. Paramedics arrived quickly and continued resuscitation efforts, transporting Rosario to a nearby Kent area hospital. But she died from severe head trauma and cardiac arrest resulting from the fall. Her family later revealed she had been an organ donor, and her heart, lungs, kidneys, and liver went on to save the lives of 5 other people. Before we continue, if this kind of documented research interests you, I cover stories like these regularly on this channel. Consider subscribing to stay informed. Now back to the video. Dishwasher knife death. In late May 2003, 31-year-old Jane MacDonald was staying at a Church of Scotland manse on Dunrobin Road in Airdrie, North Lanarkshire, a home belonging to Reverend Sharon Colvin. On a Tuesday evening, MacDonald decided to tidy up the kitchen before bed. The task included dealing with the open dishwasher, which contained cutlery in the basket, with at least one sharp kitchen knife positioned blade up, a common habit in households across the country. As she moved near the open dishwasher door, she slipped on the kitchen floor and fell directly onto the exposed, upturned knife. The blade penetrated her chest, causing severe internal bleeding. Reverend Colvin found MacDonald collapsed on the kitchen floor beside the open dishwasher and immediately called 999. Paramedics rushed MacDonald to Monklands General Hospital in Airdrie, but despite emergency treatment, doctors were unable to save her, and she died from the knife wound shortly after arrival. Strathclyde police investigated and found no suspicious circumstances, classifying the death as a tragic accident. Investigators noted that a 12-year-old boy in Northampton had died in a near-identical dishwasher incident 6 years earlier in 1997, confirming that placing knives blade up in dishwasher cutlery trays, while a near-universal habit, carries a genuine and documented risk. Vacuum cleaner death. In May 2015, a young newlywed named Ricky Hill was spending a lunchtime afternoon in the granny flat he shared with his wife Leanne at the back of her parents' property in Park Ridge South, Queensland, Australia. Leanne, who was 38 weeks pregnant, was at work. Before leaving for his night shift at a meatworks factory, Ricky called her to say he was going to do a bit of housework, vacuuming the flat and running some laundry to help out before she got home. They said their goodbyes and exchanged I love yous, and Leanne returned to her shift. Hours passed without a text. Leanne called and received no answer, assuming he had fallen asleep before work. She asked her father, who was heading home anyway, to check on him. Her father entered the flat and found Ricky on the floor, his lips blue, the vacuum cleaner still plugged in beside him. He began CPR immediately and called for an ambulance. Paramedics and police arrived and took over, but Ricky was pronounced dead at the scene. Investigators took the vacuum cleaner away for examination and later concluded that Ricky had been electrocuted while cleaning, touching a live internal component of the machine after removing an attachment while it remained powered on. 6 days after his death, Leanne delivered their daughter by cesarean section and named her Maisie Ricky in his honor. Community members launched the hashtag Raise the Roof campaign to support Leanne and her newborn, and home safety outlets later cited his case as a warning about the dangers of handling powered appliances during use. Cream dispenser death. On Saturday, June 17, 2017, 33-year-old Rebecca Berger was in the kitchen of her home in Galfing, a small village near Mulhouse in eastern France. Berger was a popular fitness and lifestyle blogger with more than 150,000 Instagram followers, known for posting about training, nutrition, and food preparation. That afternoon, she was doing something entirely routine, using a pressurized whipped cream siphon to prepare a dessert. Cream siphons work by sealing pressurized gas into a metal canister held together by a fastened head. While she was using the device, the head of the siphon explosively failed, shooting off the canister with extreme force and striking her in the chest, causing severe internal injuries and cardiac arrest. Emergency services arrived and managed to restart her heart, and she was rushed to hospital, but she died the following day, June 18th, from her injuries. In the days that followed, her family took over her Instagram account and posted a photo of the type of siphon involved, writing that it had exploded and struck Rebecca's chest, causing her death, and warning followers to check their own devices immediately. French consumer magazine 60 Millions de Consommateurs had previously documented multiple injuries from exploding dispensers of the same design, including fractured sternums, broken ribs, and lost teeth, and some brands had issued recalls years earlier. Hundreds of thousands of defective units remained in French homes at the time of her death. Tractor mowing death. On a Monday afternoon in mid-October 2023, 76-year-old Gary Moss set out to mow the grass on his property near Blacksburg in Cherokee County, South Carolina. He used a Ford 1620 compact tractor fitted with a bush hog rotary cutter attachment, standard equipment for maintaining a larger yard with uneven terrain. At some point during the job, the tractor traveled down an embankment on the property, shifting the machine's center of gravity. Moss was thrown or fell from the tractor seat while the machine continued moving. With no operator in the seat, the tractor and the attached bush hog implement moved into him, pinning his body between the two pieces of equipment and inflicting crushing and entanglement injuries. When Moss did not come inside, his wife went out to look for him and found him trapped in the yard, She called 911. Emergency crews arrived, but Gary Moss was already dead. Cherokee County Coroner Dennis Fowler confirmed he died at the scene from injuries consistent with being crushed and entangled by the equipment, and classified the death as a tragic accident. Parking lot crushing. On December 23, 2024, 61-year-old Kathy Pendergrass of Warrenton, Virginia, was visiting family in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, for the holidays. That afternoon, at around 3 p.m., she and relatives were leaving the Longhorn Steakhouse at the Avenue Murfreesboro shopping complex when they encountered a man in a wheelchair in the parking lot. The man, who was recovering from a stroke and had no feeling in his left leg, needed help getting into a blue Honda CR-V configured for mail delivery use. Pendergrass stopped to assist him. The vehicle had its accelerator and brake pedals relocated to the passenger side for delivery driving, placing them directly where the wheelchair user was climbing in. As she stood near the rear of the vehicle helping the man, his numb left foot accidentally made contact with the passenger side accelerator. The SUV lurched backwards suddenly and reversed into a parked car behind it, pinning Pendergrass between the two vehicles and inflicting massive crush injuries. The car continued rolling, striking two additional parked vehicles before stopping, as bystanders scrambled to call 911. First responders treated Pendergrass at the scene and rushed her to Ascension St. Thomas Rutherford Hospital before she was transferred to Vanderbilt University Medical Center in Nashville. She died from her injuries on December 28th. Investigators from the Murfreesboro Police Department Fatal Accident Crash Team found no evidence of impairment or intent, attributing the acceleration to the passenger side pedal configuration and the man's lack of sensation. Parking kiosk death. On the night of Monday, January 18, 2021, 23-year-old Victoria Strauss pulled up to the exit payment kiosk of a city parking garage at 45 Vine Street in downtown Columbus, Ohio. Strauss was a graduate student in social work at Ohio State University, a former member of Florida Atlantic University's Fly Girls dance team, and by every account, a dedicated and compassionate young woman, with a clear sense of where her life was headed. She had parked downtown earlier that evening, and was simply paying to exit and drive home, the kind of routine transaction that ends thousands of nights in any city. Surveillance footage captured what happened next. At 11:37 p.m., she pulled up to the automated kiosk and reached toward it with her card. She dropped the card, and it fell to the ground just outside her open driver's door. She leaned out from the seat, stretching down between the car and the kiosk to retrieve it. As she did, her foot pressed the accelerator. The car jumped forward into the kiosk. The movement slammed the open driver's door against the kiosk structure and trapped her head and neck between the door and the door frame. The car was wedged in place, with the engine pressing against the kiosk, holding the door pinned. The parking garage was quiet overnight, and no one entered that level. Her car sat immobilized at the kiosk, the door jammed shut against the structure, for roughly 6 hours. At approximately 5:40 a.m., a security guard making rounds discovered the car at the kiosk and called 911. Officers and medics responded and found Victoria Strauss dead at the scene. The Franklin County coroner ruled her death as a result of blunt force head and neck trauma combined with mechanical asphyxia. Her friends from FAU remembered her as someone who had planned to dedicate her career to helping others, stunned that something as small as a dropped card had cost her everything. If you found value in this, a subscription helps me continue researching these stories. Thanks for watching.